One of the cheapest and most effective in-camera effects is the miniature set. Take a close look at this music video I shot in the early 90s. This hall in an art gallery was set up in a studio. Notice the edge of the ceiling moulding, and here the corner of the room does not exactly fit the corner of the ceiling. This is because the ceiling was not there. It was in fact made of cardboard, about 1 foot long and suspended about 6 inches in front of the camera. The skylight was just a cutout with tracing paper stuck over it, and a redhead 800-watt light shining onto it. In fact, if you wanted to, you could create most of this set with a cardboard miniature, as long as your actors don't overlap the real set. I also used a suspended miniature ceiling in this music video for Lea Salonga. The subway walls were made from polystyrene, and the ceiling was also cardboard. The iron supports were paper clips that we straightened and reshaped into bracket shapes. This high-speed frame that we shot recently for a snack food commercial appears to have a very shallow depth of field. But actually, we shot it with a high-speed camera that only has a 1-inch sensor, giving it a very wide depth of field. After testing the camera, I realized the only way to achieve a shallow depth of field with this camera was to cheat. I took a still photo of a background with the amount of defocus I wanted in this shot, and had it printed on a 4x4 tarp, then stuck it to a flag frame. The result was very effective and saved me a fortune not having to use a high-speed camera with a 35mm sensor. In this music video for Samantha Cole, ghostly patrons fade in and out as she rehearses a number in a nightclub after closing. The fading in and out of the actors was simple. Shoot one plate of the empty set, then shoot one plate with the actor and simply dissolve from one plate to the other to give the effect of appearing and disappearing. But where this became complicated was I wanted a continuous camera motion. This meant that both plates needed to have identical movement. Otherwise, when we dissolve from one to the other, they won't match. A double image will appear and the effect won't work. To achieve repeatable camera moves of this precision, you would normally use motion control, but we did not have the budget, so I had to cheat. I used a regular dolly and raised the back so it tilted forward. The platform then rolled down the track pulled by gravity. Because gravity is a constant, the camera dollied at the same speed every time. We pulled back the platform and just let it roll for the second pass. We controlled the speed by how much we tilted the track. This effect is actually so reliable, I often use it in high-budget commercials, whether the budget is there for motion control or not. You have to have a good dolly though, and ensure the wheels are well greased to minimize resistance. Test this first on your available dolly before committing to it, as many cheaper dollies do not roll freely or smoothly, thus the move will not be identical every pass. Another technique you may have noticed in this video is that I shot these frames backwards, so I could reverse them in post. The smoke of the cigarette is going back into the ashtray, and the drink is pouring back into the bottle. It's very subtle, but lends an added sense of surrealism that cost nothing. I have mentioned split frame with the use of simple wipes in a previous film, but I'm going to revisit it as it is the simplest effect in the book, but can be used extensively to form many different types of effects. For this music video, where the story unfolds in reverse, I wanted the car of the artist driving head-on into an oncoming truck, but we never see if they actually collide. For safety reasons and the lack of stunt drivers, I achieved this with a simple wipe. First, I lined up my shot and locked the camera, then shot the artist driving off down the empty road. Then separately, the truck driver drove his truck towards me, and then wiped the two materials in post. I used the same technique for this Toyota commercial. The SUV drove along an empty road. The wall, which had to be live and full size as the runner physically runs up it in the previous frame, was carried in by the crew after the car had passed, and the two composited with a wipe diagonally across the frame. The runner, jumping over the wall, was also shot in the same locked camera setup, but his jump was only a few feet high and on the road. We placed a green chroma cloth over a mattress lying on the road. We then keyed him out, raised him up so it looked like he was clearing the wall, and slipped him behind the diagonal wipe so it looks like he is appearing from behind the wall. For this music video for C.J. Lewis, shot in the late 90s, I used the wipe technique to create a monitoring room for the overzealous security. This was actually shot backstage of a club, in the electrical breaker room, which was no bigger than a toilet. I lit the actors to give them some depth with a blue backlight. Then at the end of the day, I shot a close-up of the video assist monitor. I cropped the monitor and placed several clips together to form a wall of screens, then wiped it into the top half of the frame. It cost nothing in both post and props, and it looked pretty effective. I did the same thing with the prison cells. We built one cell with styro walls and PVC pipes for bars, then cropped the edges and wiped them all together to form this multi-story prison. 5 simple, cheap and effective ways to achieve special effects without heavy post or big budgets. I find the most organic and effective effect shots are often the simplest.